Hi everyone, this is Professor Matthews and I want to welcome you to Module 4. Module 4 is going to focus this week on child welfare and education policy. So we're going to learn a lot in both the Lane text, Social Work Speaks, and then all the content that you see in Canvas in the module about things like the foster care system. We're going to learn about education policies, both as it relates to like pre-K or sort of pre-college learning that may occur, and we're going to, throughout the course of this, focus in on the impact that other factors have on these social policy issues. So, one example of this is we're going to learn about the impact that race, frankly, has often on our child welfare system and on children being removed from homes. The TED Talk in particular, as well as Chapter 5 of Lane, are really going to draw home some points around the impact that race has on this system and in how, sort of which children end up being removed from homes. As we'll learn, this disproportionately impacts Black women, meaning they are often the heads of households that are having children removed. And it's really going to be important for all of us to take a step back and think about things like implicit bias and to think about why these sort of disproportionate impacts on certain populations exist. So that's going to be the focus this week. I think as you're learning about this topic, it's going to be really interesting as well to reflect on how the US's social policy, especially in areas like paid family leave, is going to be so different from other parts of the world, right? So when we talk about US policy, we don't have, right, much of anything, frankly, for paid family leave. And yet, many other countries, European countries in particular, do have very substantial investments in this. So it's important throughout to think about why. Why don't we have investments in this? It's not for lack of funding, right? Because we have money that's invested in other things. So why do we prioritize other things over child welfare? And what impact does that have throughout sort of all social policy? The other thing that I want to hone in on are your assignments for this week. So you're going to have two discussion posts this week. Your first one, you're going to review 3 case studies and you're going to write about one of those case studies. Just go ahead, answer the prompts that are in the Canvas post on your discussion around the case studies, and make sure that you respond to 2 of your peers by the deadline for those assignments. You're also, for your second discussion, you're going to do an APA activity. So you're going to kind of test your knowledge of APA formatting. I know that's new for many folks in this course. So you'll have an opportunity to see how well you're doing by doing that exercise and then to write about it in a paragraph or two. So nothing that exhaustive, but just raise any questions that you have about APA formatting. What are you struggling with? What's making sense? And we'll all be able to discuss together in those discussion posts sort of any challenges that you might be having. Lastly, and most of your effort will likely be placed on part 4 of your social change project. And this one, please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you want to sort of run your approach by me. I appreciate so many folks have done that. And I want to reinforce that, especially for this one, because it's a little confusing. So the way that I'm going to talk through it, and hopefully this is helpful for you in terms of how to approach it. So, where we're going to start this week and where the focus is going to be for your social change project is in 2 aspects. We're going to talk about theoretical perspectives for social policy, which were covered in chapter 3 of Lane. So, if you don't remember that chapter, it was only a week or two ago, but look back on chapter 3 in Lane for theoretical perspectives. And for theoretical perspectives, we talked about everything from systems change theories to economic theories to feminist theories. There are several different theories that were articulated in that chapter. What you're going to do is for the first part of this assignment, so it's broken down into 3 parts. So for part A, you are going to select one of the child welfare or education policy issues that's discussed in this module. So identify what that issue is, briefly describe it, right? That's the first part of your assignment. Secondly, what you're going to do then is take one of those theoretical perspectives, so one of those theories from chapter 3, and you're going to talk about the impact that it has on the issue that you just described in part A. So when you're describing the impact that it has on the issue, again, that you chose in part A, think about things like how does this theory impact how social workers might approach their work in this area or in this issue? How does it impact the investments that society does or doesn't make? How does it impact policies that we make? So, again, take your time reading through the instructions and reach out to me if you have problems, especially with those first couple parts because they're a little hard to understand. For the third part, this is where the population that you chose in week one is going to come in. So for parts A and B, you're not writing about your population per se. You're just writing about one of the issues from the chapter. Again, social welfare. It could be foster care, could be education. Just pick one of the issues that's covered in the Lane chapters as well as Social Work Speaks. Write about that, describe it. In part B, pick a theory, right, from chapter 3 in Lane and apply that to that issue. So describe how social workers and how society more broadly's response to that issue is impacted by that theory. And then lastly, what you're going to do is you're going to describe how that theoretical perspective has an impact on the population that you chose. So I'm going to try to give an example because I know there's one in Canvas, but sometimes the examples are very, very helpful. So let's say, for example, that you chose critical race theory, right, which is one of the topics, one of the theoretical perspectives that's described in chapter 3 of Lane. I'm looking at it right now. It's on pages 56 and 57. So critical race theory is the theoretical perspective, and let's say I'm going to choose foster care because that's what I've been talking about earlier. So part A, I'm going to describe foster care. What's the issue, right? What are the sort of policy implications? What's the issue that we're describing? That's going to be part A. Part B, I'm going to describe how critical race theory impacts our nation's response to foster care. So I would talk about implicit bias in terms of social workers' responses, with that potentially disproportionately impacting Black women in particular. And I would talk about the fact that, again, sort of connecting it back to that critical race theory, how certain populations are likely to receive maybe less support for helping raise children and how that then impacts the foster care system. Lastly, in this example, let's say that my chosen population was immigrants. Let's say that that's what I was choosing my social change project. For part C, then what I would write about is how critical race theory impacts immigrants. So for that, I could talk about how policies related to immigration might also have implicit bias and might therefore very negatively affect Black and Brown people in the community. So very, very brief example. Feel free to reach out to me again. Happy to be a springboard for that. Hopefully that example helped understand those three parts. Keep up the great work, guys. We are halfway done with this semester. I will be on office hours every Wednesday from 7 to 8, email every day in between, and reach out to me if you would like to touch base in between office hours. Thanks so much. Take care.